This is the Newsload.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm amazing. How has your morning been?
So far, so good. I get up pretty early. I'm up usually by 5:30 or something like that, maybe 5, and start my day pretty early these days because I rebuilt my studio on my own property, so I just can't help get there by 6 in the morning.
You're so in love with getting to work.
I really, these ideas come to me, and I just can't wait to get them down because they're very elusive. They come and go at will.
Yes. I try and write jokes, and I have to have a book with me or plug it into my phone, or else it's gone.
I know. The universe will steal it back from you.
It's a gift, right? It comes to you, and you feel it, and then you lose it if you have a coffee or talk about something else.
Yeah, unfortunately, but that's the whole game of catching it while it's in the air. It's like catching gnats or butterflies.
Absolutely, or fireflies or anything more
Yeah.
fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to ask you about Wild Horses, the music video, the song. So many questions. Do you mind?
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
So first off, are those jeans? Did you just walk in with those fabulous jeans?
I can't remember what jeans I wore.
They're these lovely blue jeans that are very tight. And I have to admit, at 8 years old, I had never seen jeans that tight.
Um, I'm trying to recall, but all I know is that it was a video shoot, and this guy had this wild idea about building sort of a hillbilly or bluegrass looking set. He didn't tell me about the hot chick, and then when she started doing her stuff around me, I was kind of a little distracted.
Argumentatively, like, goodness, she's that chiseled jaw, that she's so
Well, it just I didn't expect it, and so I was trying to concentrate on what I had to do, and I thought it was a pretty good video. I mean, the in those days, people spent a fortune on videos. It's an amazing thing. I mean, of course, it was all new to us and was such a market for it. But I did have fun making it with all the drummers changing at every bar.
Can we talk about all the different drummers? What's going on
Sure.
with that?
Yeah, anything you want to talk about, I'm fine.
What's going on with all the drummers?
Well, I think one of the heavy set drummers, I'm not sure if he's still with us, was the guy who played on Fever by Peggy Lee.
That's
And so he was one of them. The other drummer was David Garibaldi, and he still plays with Tower of Power. He's the original drummer.
okay.
Been with them since the 60s.
Did I see a BB King cameo?
I don't think so. There were, I think, 2 or 3 different guitar players.
Yeah, who's the African American fellow on the guitar for 60 seconds? It looks like
Oh, I'll have to go back and look at it because I could hardly remember all that. And my brother Joe was in it for a couple of seconds, and then I believe we had a couple of guitar. Mike Miller could have been in it. We played with so many musicians, and I think they invited them all.
it was just a video party, eh?
Well, for me, video was kind of a big business, or big to do, because in a strange kind of way, I wanted to reinvent myself. I didn't want to stay where I was in the 70s. So there were many roads ahead. You could always. I could have, after that record, I moved to Portland, and I recorded a jazz record. Yonder Tree, and then I did some classical stuff after that, or at least classically dance stuff with the Canto record. And so for me, it was always about saying, well, which way do I want to go? And I knew that a video would really kind of almost pave the path, or light the way, or at least in people's minds.
Oh, absolutely. In the 80s, I believe video killed the radio star, and Much Music. I grew up in Lucan, Ontario, Canada. So Much Music, being able to see that beautiful video and you in those tight jeans, and it's a great song. And I was born in 1981, so I wasn't exposed to much of your 70s work, but Black Cars, also the music video Black Cars. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, that was another surprise. I had no idea he'd have so many cross dressers, and,
okay, so they were dudes. They were dudes.
Yeah, most of them were. There was the heroine of the video was definitely a female, but she had quite a look, even in person, quite a sneer to her. So she really played the part very well. I think she played more or less the part of Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard.
That was what you were going for?
I mean, I left it totally. This guy, I can't remember his name, but he had done a couple of Bowie videos, and so we went to London to shoot this video, and it was shot in London, and it was a big production, as you well could see, all the dancers and so on and so forth. And I was taken by surprise, by the whole thing, and I didn't envision it that way, because I didn't really write the song with that in mind. The song is a little bit more of an inward, I thought the video would be a little bit more of an inward look at someone who was afraid of aging, who was afraid of time, the passage of time. Because I had written the song sitting on a bench on Hollywood Boulevard and watching people go by, as per the advice of a few people when I found myself stuck lyrically. So I just watched people and let the ideas flow. And I saw this this woman with a lot of yarrow root makeup, or cake makeup, white cake makeup, who looked like she had been there since 1957, at the Rexall drugstore, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be the next Lana Turner or something like that. And it looked quite sad. And it was interesting how she avoided the sun, and how she had this image of herself. And so I kept that in mind, and I went back home, and in those days I owned a Camaro Z28, and it was time to wash it, give it a bath, and wax it maybe. So I started washing it and waxing it, and I noticed that the sunny side never looked right. And so I thought of the lady in the fake fur coat with the cake makeup and the car, and the two seemed to be alike in the sense that the sun didn't really do them very good.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful metaphor. But it's interesting because, we're encouraged so much now because of lockdown and everything. Go outside, get some sun, kind of thing, but not for cars and women who want to have porcelain faces, eh?
Well, you look, I mean, that's one of the, I think, challenges of our experience here on this planet, is that we have to enjoy and suffer the passage of time. When you're 12, you can't wait to be 18, so you're suffering the anxiety of getting there. And when you're 18, you're really anxious to get going, and then suddenly, as you go past 40 and all that, now you're trying to put on the brakes a little bit by eating better, sleeping better, doing things, watching this and that. And but it's a natural thing. Preservation is built into our DNA. And so for me, I wanted to do this, till I die. So I can't say that it's really taking care, but the art of preservation is a really fine art.
Absolutely. And you seem to be preserving quite beautifully. Your skin is flawless. Your hair is fabulous. Is that all your real hair and your natural skin? I hate to ask.
Yeah. Well, natural skin can be unnatural, I guess.
Well, you can work it,
Oh, no. No, that's a very tricky thing to undergo. Some women do okay with it, but most men who get faceless or do anything like that never get away with it. I mean, they're so altered that people have a hard time recognizing them.
I don't know.
And,
Warren Beatty worked it.
I haven't seen his, but a couple of singers that have done it really it didn't do them very good to me. It kind of alters your expression so that those who grew up with you, who know you, that this it's almost like they belong to a certain race of people that are not quite human. If it's done very, very well, it's acceptable, of course.
Of
But
course.
I think most of them get a radical job, and that's I don't know. It doesn't seem to sit well with me, anyways. And I
Well,
think most women that I know don't like it.
absolutely. And I don't like all the ladies that we're losing. Kanye West's mom, Joan Rivers, they go under and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you can start to look a little scary if you get two and three and four and multiple because you're pulling on pull.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How far can you go? Like there's only so much. But anyway, you being in LA, it must be.
No, I'm not. I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, you're in Oregon. Oh.
My brother Ross lives in Los Angeles, and Joe.
Oh, okay, okay. And you work with your whole family?
No, I have my studio here in Portland, and Joe does his thing. He produces. He's done a lot of work with Chicago and Tower of Power and REO Speedwagon. And Ross is my manager. Ross handles me and does all the preparatory work. He does the videos too. He also does this live sound. So he's really a man of many trades.
Was your mom musical?
My dad was.
Mm.
And was a cabaret singer.
So that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I visited the cabaret when I was 3 or 4 years old. It was up in Quebec City when I was a child, and it kind of hit me that was for me.
Oh yeah, you were touched by the magnitude and the just the excitement of it all.
Yeah, you can say I was blinded by the light.
So, who's a cool celebrity that you've met that you were like astounded? You're not supposed to meet your heroes, but was there a hero that was cool to you that you met?
Well, I've met various artists, through the passage of time, but the artists that I would have really liked to have met are unfortunately gone.
Yeah, yeah. But did you meet like Frank Sinatra, Prince?
No, I just missed Frank Sinatra by a car ride because he was supposed to come when I was just auditioning for many record companies. We had gone to Palm Springs and we had gotten an audition for Frank Sinatra and his people because Frank Sinatra's record label was Reprise and all that. And there had been a giant sandstorm that day. So Jilly Rizzo, who was his right-hand man, came to see me and said Frank stayed home because he didn't want to take the Rolls Royce because of the sandstorm. So I lost out to the sandstorm. But I did meet Tony Bennett, and I met a lot of other artists. I mean, and there's a book that I wrote called Stardust in the Sand, and there's a whole I think the chapter's called Godlings and Feet of Clay, and it talks about all my encounters with maybe 15 or 20 artists, including Billy Joel, Sting, you name it, all of them, and the awkward moments that most artists have with each other.
Is it always awkward? Like I'm starstruck right now. Like you're a beautiful man and I've loved you pretty much my entire life. And like I'm nervous. Like, are you that way when you met like Tony Bennett?
No, I was more curious than I was nervous. I mean, a little bit, I suppose, watching my P's and Q's a bit, hoping I don't say the wrong thing. But Mine was more of being a fly on the wall, being more observational. And I noticed that the man always had a smile on his face. And he was going to live till 100, I felt at the time. And looks like he will. And he was just a positive kind of guy, you know. And I felt a little bit shamed by it because my complaints about my life, my career, myself seemed to be really, really petty next to someone who just seemed to be absorbing life and flowing with it. So it really was a good encounter. The one with Billy Joel was very, very funny, and because he had been at a club called Paul's Mall in Boston in 1975, and he had just had this one hit, the Piano Man, and we were supposed to play the next night for a couple of nights, and so we had got in that day, and so we went to see him that night, and he was good, but he was just bitching and bitching on stage and complaining about this, about that, about who doesn't like his material, and Rolling Stone is full of shit, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh
And
no.
oh yeah, he was really, really at it. And at one point, really cussing and all. And I turned around to my manager at the time, and I said, I don't think this guy is going anywhere, you know. And the next day, he came out of his room downstairs in the lobby. We were staying at the same hotel, and I was introduced to him. And when he introduced himself to me, and the way he looked at me and the way he shook my hand, I said, no, I could be wrong.
Because everybody has a bad night, you know what I mean? They're
No,
yelling.
I think that's his personality. I think he had a very pugnacious, a very pugilistic personality. He had been a boxer, I think, in his youth, and he had that kind of fighting mentality. So his complaints were really not complaints; they were jabs. They were left crosses and right crosses and uppercuts. You know.
Ah.
But I mistook his complaints for complaints, but they really were just jabs at this invisible enemy.
That's fascinating. Is there anything you'd like to let young artists know? Like, I know that, you know, it's a completely different business, but it's still, you know, going out and hitting the road and getting a manager, and, you know, there's still the basics that you need. Do you have any tips or advice for new musicians or artists in the scene?
Well, there's always the staples that, you know, things come into fruition, they come into reality first by visions, by thoughts, by imagination. And so it's important to keep that fire going, the flames of imagination, you know, burning hot. But you can't just keep it there. You have to find a way to translate those flames into real hard substances. And so for me, I can just say, as I was a young man, maybe 15, 16, when I really, really was trying to get a record deal, and I did by the time I was 17 with RCA Victor. But what it took was studying the records, who the managers were, who the record labels were, who the producers were, who I wanted to get to meet, who the producers that I really liked were, who the songwriters were, the arrangers, who did I want to emulate, who did I want to model myself after. And don't only, I would say to artists today, don't only go 10 years or 20 years deep, go 100 years deep, 200 years deep. See how Beethoven did it, how he sold his material, how he dealt with publishers at the time. Check it out, and you'll find that things don't really change that much. It's the same a war between art and commerce. There'll always be the war between art and commerce. If you'll have a great idea and people will say, well, it's not commercial enough, it's not going to sell. And it takes just the right, maybe tweaking of your art, or maybe the right person to see it, to make that right combination. And it may take years to find that right combination. And then there's a spiritual aspect of art. And the spiritual aspect is how to keep going. how to keep your faith. The faith in yourself, the faith in your art, the faith that you'll come through at one point. So again, study the greats, study the great poets like Walt Whitman, even Van Gogh, some of the great artists. It's okay to study the successful ones, but just because they were successful doesn't mean they were good or bad. Success has a life of its own, as with poverty or failure has a life of its own. William Blake is one of my favorite artists, engravers, poets of all time. He lived a life of sheer poverty and sickness in the end and all that. But, there are museums erected, to William Blake today. So there are really no rules. But one thing he did have is that he had such deep faith in the way spirit worked through him that it kept him alive, it kept the flames burning, and it kept him going. And finally, at the end of his life, people started recognizing his worth. So that's if you're in it for the long haul, that is my advice. If you're in it for the money, I really couldn't give you any advice.
Well, Gino, I can't thank you enough for your time. And, I want to apologize. We had to reschedule and figure it out because I time zones and differences and such.
I know. Yeah. Yes, I know.
Please forgive me for that. But I can't tell you what a talented, beautiful influence you've been to me and so many people. And please keep it up. And how can we keep track of you? Do you?
Well, I from time to time I have a Facebook page that I tell people what I'm doing, and I offer people some sneak previews of songs and some poetry and some blogs here and there. We're getting ready to do 10 cities this fall in the United States, and then I have an album I'm almost finished that I'm working on, and that's why I was telling you earlier that I can't wait to get to the studio every day to get this thing done. And right after we speak, I'm going to head to the studio and finish singing a song called "A Come to Jesus Moment."
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was great talking to you, Carrie.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And I wish you blessings on your new song. And from London, Ontario, Canada, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
This is the Newsload.